Hello everyone, my name's Don Dodge and this is Google Root Access. Today my guest is Jennifer Reuting, founder and CEO of DocRun. Jennifer is a serial entrepreneur. She started several companies and today we'll talk a little bit about how that went. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi.
All right, so you started InCorp and My LLC and your current company, DocRun.
Correct.
So when did you start your first company?
I started my first company at 17. I started college early, so I was in college at the time, and typical college dropout. I did end up going back for a time to get my degree, but yeah, it's pretty early.
17 years old, you started your first company. Wow.
17.
So what experience did you have before you started that company? You couldn't have had much. You were barely out of high school.
No, yeah, I had no experience. And actually, I don't think that I would have started the company had I had the experience that I have now, because the market that I was penetrating was actually really evolved at the time. It's a registered agent company in corporate compliance. And the two largest competitors are both public companies at this point. So, it was super saturated, and I had no idea what I was doing. So all I knew is that I wanted to create value and just see those checks rolling in. It was just about the number of customers that we could get at that point. It was such a single-minded focus.
So you're 17 years old. You don't have any entrepreneurship experience, probably haven't worked that many jobs. How did you decide to do incorporations or registered agent kind of that? At 17, I didn't even know such a thing existed.
I actually fell into it. I don't think that when you aren't setting out to be an entrepreneur, you just sort of fall into things. And I was working for these investment bankers. I was really tired of working for people, frankly.
At
so that
17.
was driving me. Yeah. I actually had just gotten fired by a retail job for a stupid reason. It was the stupidest reason. It was like it defied all logic for me. And I was like, I'm never working for anybody again. And then I ended up getting a job for these investment bankers. And as a secretary, and what we were doing at the time was taking companies public. And involved in that is forming the companies, and we're also the registered agent for the companies. And one day I come into the office, and the place had been ransacked, and my bosses had fled the country. Yeah, one went to Mexico, the other one went to Switzerland. And all the other employees were like, well, I guess we're out of a job, right? And I knew, and I told them that, we'd paid the office rent for the rest of the year because we'd paid it all up front. And so I was like, well, we have to do something. And nobody else was game, so it was just me. And I was like, I can't take companies public. That involves a whole slew of people. But I was accepting the service of process. As the registered agent, that's what you do. It's really easy. Basically, you accept mail and you forward it. And we charge companies $200 a year for that. And I'm like, well, that's easy. I can do that. Anybody can do that. And all you need is an office. And so I started mailing to companies, because it was public information, the Secretary of State database, basically offering them a free year of registered agent service. And I'm like, if I can just get through 1 year, I'll be golden. Because, in my 17-year-old brain, I was like, if I can charge $200 a year, and if I get 1,000 companies, I'm like, that's $200,000 a year. I'm going to be rich, And so that was, I just started mailing, and people started responding, and then I started getting my scholarship checks in the mail. and I'm like, well, I could use it for postage, or I could sit through a lot of math courses that I didn't want to take. And that was the genesis of InCorp. And now we have over 60 employees, and we're set to do well over 20 million this year.
So you started InCorp at 17 years old, and it still exists today?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So most entrepreneurs that I talk to, they get a passion about some thing, or they want to improve something or change the world, and they go and start a company. Your story is a little different. You found an opportunity. You had a year of free office space, and you knew a few things. You said, why not do this? Did you get passionate about incorporations, and where did you find your drive to build this business and make it big?
My parents didn't have a lot of money, and they were always having money problems, and I didn't have the easiest childhood. It wasn't hard. It wasn't like anything terrible. I know my mom's probably watching this, so got to be careful there. Otherwise, I'll be getting the phone call. But I think that some people are running towards things, and other people are running away from things. And I think at that time, it was just really nobody believed in me. Nobody, I remember I wanted money for school for school books, and one of my relatives was like, "Well, you're not going to graduate anyway," and just like they would say things like that, and it would just drive me. I'm like, "Well, screw you! I can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to, accomplish something." And then it just kind of became a little bit of I found just one key metric that I got fulfillment out of, which was the number of customers that we got. Because the number of customers that we got was really my shining thing, where in the future, this is going to be what's going to sustain me. And so people may not understand what I'm doing now, and I'm sleeping on in a sleeping bag on the floor of the office because I'm broke, right? But I know that as that number rose, I knew that was like, hey, I'm going to be balling, I'm going to be somebody, and I'm going to actually, prove them wrong. And then after a while, you get used to that you get used to the success. And that's when, for me, it was sort of the thing that drove me became more vision and wanting to make a mark on the world. And, but it definitely wasn't the catalyst. I think the catalyst was more, just proving people wrong, just like nutty 17-year-old.
Well, you've certainly proven people wrong. You've now started 3 companies. The latest one, DocRun. Tell me a little bit about DocRun. What do you do there?
So DocRun actually, the idea for it came out of the other companies, because one of my other companies is a formation company, and we deal a lot with small businesses. And so I interact a lot with small businesses and entrepreneurs, and even writing LLCs for Dummies. I've interacted a lot with that world and gotten passionate about it. And the one thing that's just become so clear to me is that people form their businesses. It's really easy. You can go on a number of websites, pay $100 or so, and you get your documents in the mail, but they have no concept of what to do after that point. They don't know how to bring on partners, or they don't know what happens if one partner, they want to, 2 of the partners want to kick out another partner, or, how to hire employees and do it legally, and what I was also finding is that a lot of the entrepreneurs aren't typically, what we experience in the tech world, people that are going out and getting funded, et cetera. It's the people that are getting laid off and maybe have $10,000 in their savings account to start a business because they really don't have any other alternative other than welfare. But, that's the beauty of America, right? Where, people want to... we're very entrepreneurial. So they can't afford the heavy legal fees that lawyers charge. And so what I decided with DocRun was that I wanted to create a software solution that really took out the drafting of the contracts and agreements away from lawyers to be able to make it affordable for people. And that way they can access lawyers for just the high-level stuff, for the guidance, for the stuff that they're really there for, right? And that's where all the value is provided. So, we're breaking down that barrier to entry for small businesses to really be able to embrace the law and be legit. And, business owners can sleep at night knowing that they have partnership agreements. I mean, you'd be surprised how many, partnerships have no contracts between the partners, So
DocRun provides legal documents for small businesses, employment agreements, or what kinds of things are involved?
So really, it's partnership agreements, bylaws, all the formalities if you have a corporation, employment contracts, offer letters, stock option plans if you want to venture into that for your business. That's now accessible for average entrepreneurs. Profit sharing plans. Termination letters, everything from terms of use for your website, privacy policies, anything relating bringing on partners or removing partners, and selling shares for investment, raising capital, or even dissolving your business. So
you found a problem of forming companies and having these agreements. They were very, very expensive, and you thought you could do it for less money and save people money and make money in the same time. What did you know about this? Or is it, once again, it didn't matter, you could just figure it out and do it?
Well, I knew when I was writing the first edition of LLCs for Dummies, I knew, operating agreements are, very crucial for a limited liability company. In some states, you're not even valid if you don't have an operating agreement in place. In other states, if you don't have a specific provision in your operating agreement, it's not even valid. And so some of these solutions, the fill-in-the-blank forms you get aren't really state-specific, et cetera. And so when I was writing the book, I just decided, here's how to do it. I'm going to show you a broad thing, but really just go to a lawyer. And after the book was published, I get about 4 to 5 Ask Jennifer questions a day on the site, and I just got a huge blowback. So people were saying I can't afford it. They wanted a $5,000 retainer, or just an astronomical fee. And what's another solution? And they just kept asking me that. And so when I wrote the second edition, I'm like, I'm not making that mistake again. I went to a lot of attorneys, and I was asking them, okay, these are my friends. I'm like, maybe we can do something that's at a price point that people can afford. And they just weren't willing or able to do it, because, they have their own, school loans to pay off, and it just wasn't really offering a viable profit margin for them. And so at that point, I was like, well, I have to write this book. I have to put something in there. I'm not going to subject myself to another 2 years of complaints by readers. So I went and purchased a domain name called DocRun. And in the book, I was like, just go to DocRun, and I had no idea what I was going to do or how I was going to do it. And I was like, well, I have some time before, hopefully there's, I just had to create something, so I had to figure it out.
So you created the need for DocRun by writing the book, and then you had to scramble to
figure out what the
create
solution
DocRun.
was. Yeah,
Wow.
and really, when you look at what an attorney does and how he creates contracts, it's something that's really akin to being automated with software. So.
You're obviously a woman and
I hope so.
3-time entrepreneur. Are there special challenges for a woman entrepreneur starting a company?
Not in tech. When I started InCorp, half the time, I ended up bringing on a partner who is a man, and half the time, and he was just really doing all the programming. I was running the business, and we just he would even come to me and get clearly upset that people just wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't engage with me. And I think that, after so many years of that, in that sort of world, the corporate world, where women, especially, I was so young, I had to lie about my age to everybody, even the employees. Like nobody, my birthday parties, it was like always 16 every year. Like, and I'm sure people start wondering, but yeah, it's, I think that sort of, it was difficult, right? Like it sort of put me on guard to the point where I'm like, it sort of fed into that, well, nobody believes in you anyway. Nobody, that sort of thing. And it's been really fascinating to me migrating over to the tech industry, which is, it embraces women, it embraces youth. And had I known this before, I just would have started in the tech industry because, I would have been golden, I never would have thought that anybody would ever invest in me, even when my company was successful because I was young and I was a woman back then, and I just had no idea that there was this amazing industry that's just so embracing of, people that don't necessarily fit the norm. And I think that it's interesting to me, a lot of VCs, if they do feel reluctant to invest in a female founder, especially a single founder like myself, I can understand it to some extent because there aren't any really successful female single founders, It's not, I think that, I have my own theories on why that is, but hopefully, it hasn't bothered me. We have plenty of funding and plenty of people that believe in me and want to fund and back me. So it's fine. There hasn't been any big issues there. And hopefully I can sort of pave that way and be one of the people that's something that's really personally driving me.
So Jennifer, you're breaking all the rules. You're young, a woman, a sole founder. Most of the time we want multiple founders. And you've raised money and been successful. So tell me about how it went, raising money and starting a tech company.
It was definitely hard. Because I'm a sole founder, but I wanted to be. I'm a little bit, it kind of pissed me off that people would say, oh, we only invest in teams, or, oh, where's the technical component? Or, I think that at the time I was very like, there are no sole female founders, and but we're good at business too, and it's so I actually was pretty adamant about being a sole founder, and that was interesting. It definitely was interesting. I had to learn how to pitch. I'm not good at asking for anything. I'm very, very I can do things myself. Mm-hmm. I'm actually good at asking for advice, because to me that's kind of, when you ask somebody for advice, it's a compliment to them, so it's an equal exchange. I don't know. But the idea of going out and asking for capital, I've never raised capital before, and I was always so proud of never taking on any debt with my company, never raising any capital. I was just proud of bootstrapping, and but I knew that this needed to be the next chapter in my evolution as an entrepreneur, and embracing that was, something I needed. It was a personal journey for me that I had to take, and learning how to use PowerPoint. Oh my gosh, I hate PowerPoint. If I could raise capital without pitching on a PowerPoint, that would be ideal. So
maybe that's your next company.
There you go. I'm still not into the PowerPoint thing. I'll have to get better at that for sure.
So you seem to like challenges, and that seems to motivate what you do. So my question is, what does motivate you?
It's funny. The seed of the idea, and really what the overall passion for wanting to just sort of disrupt this industry and to kind of make it so that people own the law, lawyers sort of have charged this premium for knowledge, and people haven't really had access to it, and they feel like this sort of dissociation with it, when in reality people own the law. It's it's for us to use and to protect ourselves with. And so that's an overall, that's sort of the overarching thing that drives me. But I think also on a day-to-day basis is looking at my team, the people that have taken these ridiculous pay cuts to come work for me, and investors, and it's just sort of knowing that I don't want to let those people down. So on a day-to-day basis, it's really just I can't let these people down. They believed in me. I will die before I fail you. And I want to make the journey worth it. I want them to be that was an amazing journey, and we had bumps in the road, and there were hard times, and there were great times, and at the end of the day, like, this success and feeling the mutual success, and I want to give that to them.
What about the other side of that? What about when the employees let you down and you have to, have you ever had to fire someone?
Oh, yeah, recently. It was tough. It was really tough. It's not just about firing somebody for poor performance. I recently had to let somebody go because he was an executive, because there was just a disparity in the vision, in the core value of what I'm trying to accomplish at DocRun. And when this person's running over half of your team and interacting with them on a day-to-day basis, and just sort of circumventing what you're trying to compel people, the vision you're trying to bring people in on, and I had to let that person go. And the problem was that he was a great employee, and he was passionate, and but the problem, so there was really nothing wrong, and he'd sacrificed a lot. But it just was one of those things where, there can only really be one vision, and when there's something that's completely conflicting, especially lawyers, it's the difficulty of having a company that's trying to disrupt the legal industry and it's full of lawyers. You have to keep very close guard that we're on the same page, that we're not slipping into that legal sort of mindset of, making this a product for lawyers, or making this a product that we don't want to dumb down our consumers, or to, dumb down our demographic. Yeah, yes, the answer is yes.
So how do you keep that vision and passion and everyone on the same page? Are there things that you do every day to make that stronger, or is it just a natural leadership kind of thing? I was almost doing it too much, to the point where there was a little bit of backlash. Like, people are like, okay, we need to stop having all of these meetings where we're talking about vision and we're talking, So I think that once I have pretty much indoctrinated everybody. We know where we're heading. And it's more, it's just, vision needs to permeate everything, right? So in your conversations, when I'm talking to employees about certain things, like even just today, I was talking to somebody about the tone of the help content of just like helping people, guiding them through the process, and what the tone should be. And, having a clear vision, saying, okay, well, we want to empower people, so we're not going to talk down to them, but we still want to be approachable. It sort of permeates every aspect of your business. And to me, one of the things I'm working on right now that I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs don't spend enough time on is their brand. Because the brand is the vision incarnate. Like, it's the representation of the vision visually, and just how you present yourself to the user. And so just in the same way that a brand permeates your marketing, in all aspects of your marketing, it needs to be cohesive. I think your vision needs to kind of permeate your communication and with your team, and just making sure that you're consistent, that you're not deviating from it, and checking yourself to make sure that you're not, getting excited by, being a heat-seeking missile and getting excited by something that's not really part of the core vision. So DocRun competes with some pretty significant companies. LegalZoom is a competitor, and there might be others. They advertise on television. So you're up against some pretty big competitors. How do you work on the brand and the vision to break out and so people know who you are?
Well, the irony is that these competitors like LegalZoom don't actually do what we do. But that doesn't necessarily make them not a competitor, because their brand is so all-encompassing, and it's just so just out there so much. It's that people generally tend to associate it with anything that has to do with business and the law. especially the name, LegalZoom. So that's been a challenge, It drives me nuts. Like, every time I say what we do, they're like, oh, like LegalZoom? I'm like, they don't do that. We're really picking up where those companies, like LegalZoom and even my company, left off, essentially, after the formation process. So there are some competitors, but one of the things that we're actually doing is the vision is very different for where we're headed. We're making the system task-based. We're really trying to take the information that our users give us during the Q&A and just tailor the environment to their individual situation, because so much of what's in the industry right now is just trying to shove people into this one-size-fits-all thing, whether it be form documents or something, just like some general Q&A that kind of fills in the blanks for you. And that's just it's inherently broken, right? It's not really even legally viable, and it gets a little dangerous. So in order for us to evolve, the system that we've created just really, we're looking at it from the opposite perspective, where we're actually looking at how we can organically replicate the attorney process of creating a document, rather than looking at it from how can we make forms easier to fill out, hopefully our product will speak for itself. There will be a price differentiation there for sure, which will also, kind of cue people to that this is something better. In our user testing sessions, people are giving, the average price just for an operating agreement that they're saying they would pay is about $400 to $500. So that's been very promising, because we're probably not even going to start. I don't know. It's a little bit. So they really are looking, when they interact with the product, they really are looking at it as something that is akin to maybe using a lawyer. And hopefully we can have lawyers kind of pick up where we leave off, which.
Excellent. So you started your first company at 17. This is your third company, and you're still very young. Where do you see things going 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Do you have grander visions, or you always have your eye on the ball, the thing that's right in front of you?
I think that one of the things that women don't do enough is plan their lives, as far as when, for me, I do want to have a family at some point, but I'm not going to delude myself to think that I can do it while starting a business. It's just, so probably after this, I might do that for a few years, and then I'll do another venture, I'm not a serial entrepreneur, ironically. I'm not the type that, I'm like, okay, this business is done. What's the next thing I can start? I have to be just grabbed by something so much that I can't not do it. So that's kind of, it's pretty variable, right? Like, I don't know if after I do this business and we have an exit, I instantly have that moment where I can't not do it, with something else. Or if I don't, then, you kind of have to see where things take you. I think it's hard to plan, bursts of inspiration. And
I think you hit it right on the head. It's that you have to have passion for the idea, and you can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
I have entrepreneurs come to me, or people with ideas, and they say, I have 3 or 4 ideas for companies, and I don't know which one to do.
Yeah.
And my answer to them is, don't do any of them. Because if there isn't one idea that is just all-consuming and you can't think about anything else, then don't do it.
I know. I feel so lucky when I compare myself to other entrepreneurs that, we pretty much have product market fit. We're pretty, I know exactly what it is that I want to do. It's pretty clear. And any pivoting that's going to be going on are going to be maybe pricing, or how we deliver the product to them, smaller things within the, the vision. And I just feel really bad for entrepreneurs that don't have that. And are wavering between things, and they don't necessarily know what it is that they want. And I think that the danger is, yes, you let user testing drive your iterations, but it should be within the confines of a very clear vision, right? But when you let user testing drive your vision and you let metrics drive your vision, I just, I don't know. I feel bad for people that are always having to pivot and they don't necessarily know what it is that they want to do.
So you're driven by a vision and you have a direction and nothing's going to stop you.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, some of our investors hate that for sure because I'm like, nope, we're doing it. But yeah, I just know, but that's the luxury of spending your time in one market, right? Like I have 10 years experience in this market and with this demographic, and I am so well aware of how to approach them, how to sell them. I have sales channels already established. It's the benefit of just understanding your demographic and also just being a subject matter expert on what you're doing. It's not, it's understandable why investors like that, right? Because it gives you a confidence and a knowledge that you can sort of build your vision off of, so you're not going in blind.
I want to ask you about special challenges or differences in being a woman entrepreneur versus a man. Have you found anything that has been different or challenging or just different?
Pretty much every week or so I get asked to be on a panel about women entrepreneurs. It's like, I think that I go to a lot of these things. I get dragged to a lot of these things. I'm not, and a lot of women tend to focus too much on that, in my opinion. I'm not a woman entrepreneur.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, to me, they're very separate. I think that women tend to feel that in order to compete, they have to be masculine. And they have to be something that they're not. They have to be sort of inauthentic when they're at the office or put on a face. And I've never... No, that's a lie. I have felt that. I felt that a lot when I was with Incorp. But I think that over the years, I've just become really, really comfortable with myself, and I don't see myself as, my team follows me because I do cool things. Like I'm smart and I come up with good ideas and I engage them and I'm passionate and that allows me to be a little bit silly and just the kind of girl, that just I don't feel the need to cut my hair short and to be all over dominating and domineering at the office. And also I think that I'm starting to embrace the qualities of being a woman. I think that there's a lot of qualities that women have that we need to embrace more, which is we're very intuitive by nature, and I think that just we're very compassionate, and so in my conversations, and I've watched myself evolve over time as an entrepreneur as I become more comfortable with myself. It's part of growing up too, right? But now in my conversations, I have when I fire people, I don't have that guard up that I used to. I can be the compassionate woman. I actually fired somebody recently, and it was a really sad conversation, and I took him to coffee, and I went and I was talking about his business, and I put my arm around him. I was like, let me help you. I think that this isn't the right path for you. But it was just, kind of having that sort of compassionate understanding and just embracing the good qualities that we have.
Do you think that compassion and intuitive nature helps in other parts of the business and building a company?
Well, yeah. I think that emotional intelligence is huge, right? It's funny, I'm super getting into poker lately. I'm just killing it lately at poker. It seems like there's like this tie between my business and my poker game. And to me, it's sort of a metaphor for business, right? It's not so much about the cards that you're dealt. It's about your understanding of it's your intuitive understanding of what's happening at the table. Your sort of intuitive understanding of all the pieces and all the components and the other players. And, I think that having that sort of compassion and intuition, it also helps with building culture, because you can sort of tap in when things aren't right, you know it. If things aren't right at your company and the culture's off, even if people, as a CEO, people tend to like hide a lot of stuff from you. They do, and they put on the happy face, and they'll say, "Oh, everything's great," But it's like poker, right? They put on their poker faces, and then you have to sort of feel, okay, there's something that's not right here. What's really going on? Let's get to the root of this. And so I think that it helps with. I think it helps with that company culture. I think it helps with just in negotiations. If you're a naturally empathetic person and compassionate person, I never have a problem negotiating, because to me it's a win-win situation. If it was anything but a win-win situation, I wouldn't be happy with myself. So by tapping into what is beneficial for the other person involved in the arrangement is, and sort of getting a feel for what their needs are. That's kind of what compassion and, So I think that ultimately that's pretty beneficial,
So you've certainly been a successful entrepreneur. This is your third company. Why do you think there aren't more women entrepreneurs?
I think that, and this isn't universal, right? Like all this stuff it's pretty controversial because people tend to say like, "Oh, I'm not like that," and so it's all wrong. But honestly, I believe that it has to do with limiting beliefs about yourself. I feel really lucky that I grew up with a dad and around brothers, and I was never treated like a girl. I was kind of a tomboy, and I never had any limiting beliefs. But when you're a girl in a typical family, you're coddled, right? Like, you have a 16-year-old son, you're going to let him stay out past midnight. You have a 16-year-old girl, you better call me as soon as, who are you out with? And, and so those, when you treat girls differently in that way, it's natural because we want to protect women. That's how society is. But it causes some limiting beliefs. It makes. I'm sure that it has some psychological effect. Well, am I not as capable, or am I more of a victim in this world? And that sort of permeates throughout life unless they're able to sort of address it and say, okay, that doesn't necessarily apply to business, right? I think that it's also facing fears. Like you have to actually, I feel like women sort of actually have to actively get over some of those limiting beliefs. A lot of women that I know want to start businesses, they want to do like small things, right? Like they want to be sort of independent contractors. Like they want to do I want to have a publicity firm and be a publicist, or I want to, things that really involve their own merit, as opposed to, I want to disrupt that space and be the market leader, and I'm not going to stop until I get there. And I don't hear that a lot from women. I hear that more from men. And I think that whatever's holding women back from feeling that they're able to accomplish that and they're able to go out and do big, big things is probably where we need to start, right? So.
Have you found that your first company gave you confidence and your second company gave you more confidence, and the third one, did that build on itself? Or I have a sense that you were pretty confident right from the get-go, right from the first day.
No, I was fake confident. I was really fake confident. And I'm fake confident all the time, Yeah, ultimately, you just have to fake it until you make it, right? I think that, you know, facing fears is a big deal. So I try to do things that challenge myself. I have to be out of my comfort zone as often as possible. And I think that's the quality over so many years that's really given me a self-confidence and just sort of this self-assuredness, right? Like, I know that no matter what, I'm going to be okay because I have traveled to Russia and I was there by myself, like in crazy situations on trains with Russian police, and I got out of that one, so this is nothing, you know. And just, so traveling by myself a lot and just taking adventures and basically anything that I'm afraid of, just biting the bullet and doing it, Like I am gonna jump out of an airplane here in the next couple weeks, and I was just like, I'm just booking it. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just gonna do it, because you just got to get it out of your system. You can't have things holding you back. And doing that continuously over years is all of a sudden, like, your comfort zone just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, And as you fail, and then as you overcome failing and, have a good cry over it, there's been some pretty massive, horrible, failures from this, fear, from that sort of mindset. I get myself into some situations that just are terrible. But then you come out of it and you're like, those are always the best stories, right? So, and then that no matter what, I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day, whenever I have, and it was actually in relation to traveling by myself and just doing crazy adventures, I was like, sometimes things don't work out and things are really shitty, and it's like that in business too. It's really like this in business also, and are really shitty, and you make a terrible mistake or just a situation sucks. Those are always the stories. Those are the stories that you're talking about when you're at dinner with friends and when you're like, yeah, you wouldn't believe when this happened to me. And so when I'm ever in the middle of a shitty situation, am I allowed to say shitty? Ever in the middle of a shitty situation, that's always going through my mind that this is going to be a good story. And just kind of makes everything, it puts things in perspective, right? That this is just temporary. This isn't like the world is ending. This is just going to be a really good story one day.
Well, you learn a lot more from failure than you do from success.
Yeah.
So if you can keep failure in that frame of mind, that it's really a learning experience, and a month from now you'll be smarter for it and you'll have forgotten all the pain, then I guess that helps.
It was actually a big thing too, sort of a journey I had to take, was being able to separate success from self-worth. Because I think that when you start to, when your value as a human being starts to depend on your success, then all of a sudden failure takes on a whole new meaning. And then you become afraid of failure. So I think that people that are too wrapped up in success as being that's sort of like who they are and that's their identity, it actually hinders them. And I'm speaking from experience, right? Because I went through a phase where I was like, if I wasn't successful, well, what, who am I, and I had to really learn how to separate those two in order to be able to fail. It's kind of funny, and in order to be able to fail, I could actually be more successful. So to get to the next level of success, I had to make success mean less and learn how to fail better. So
amazing. Do you have any people that you look up to or are inspired by, or that you ask advice for, or are you pretty much on your own and do your own thing?
Yes, I have people everywhere, actually. I probably talk to a mentor, in one form or another a couple times a week. Right now I have a mentor that's a CIO at a pretty big company that's just been really amazing, helping me with some tech challenges that I'm having. And at the end of the day, limiting yourself to your own knowledge is just it's such a losing proposition, right? Because there's just no way to compete with somebody who has access to other people's knowledge in different industries. To the point where if you have enough mentorship, I think you could probably even do anything. I think that could even substitute your own experiences as well. So.
Amazing. Well, Jennifer, thank you for joining us today. It's an amazing story, and good luck to you in the future.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks.